Doctors, what's the stupidest patient you've ever had? It was a routine day in the pediatric ward, the kind of day where you see minor injuries, checkups, and the occasional odd ingestion. Nothing too dramatic. That morning, a young boy, probably 8 or 9, was brought in because he had swallowed a magnet. His parents were nervous but calm, and the initial assessment showed he was otherwise fine. No vomiting, no severe pain, vitals normal. We did the usual workup. X-rays confirmed a single magnet had passed into the intestine. I explained to the parents that we would monitor him closely and wait for the magnet to pass naturally in his stool. With single magnets, if they move through the gastrointestinal tract without obstruction, surgery isn't usually necessary. The plan was simple and, in medical terms, low risk. The boy was discharged with instructions: monitor for abdominal pain, vomiting, fever, or any other concerning signs. The parents nodded, and I could tell they were anxious but understood that this was routine. It wasn't a dramatic case. It was something that, with patience, would resolve on its own. The next day, he came in for follow-up. His parents seemed tense, and the boy was unusually quiet. I called him into the exam room and asked how he was feeling. He shrugged, looking down at the floor. That's when the X-ray came back. My stomach sank. There, on the screen, was the first magnet, still in the intestine, but now it was attached to a second magnet. Somehow he had swallowed another one after the first had already moved past the stomach. The two magnets were clinging together through the intestinal wall. The physics of magnets in the body are cruel. When two strong magnets find each other across tissue, they attract with enough force to trap tissue between them, compressing the walls of the intestine. This can lead to pressure necrosis, perforation, and obstruction. In this boy's case, the two magnets had created a point of obstruction, locking the intestine in place. It was no longer a wait-and-watch situation. This was an emergency. I immediately called the pediatric surgery team. The boy's parents were terrified, asking what had happened, how this could be, why it was serious. I explained calmly that magnets are different from coins or small toys. Once multiple magnets are ingested, they can pull on each other across the intestinal walls, creating a risk of obstruction, perforation, and infection. The situation required immediate surgical intervention. Within minutes, the boy was prepped and transferred to the operating room. He was small, tense, holding onto his mother's hand, eyes wide as the anesthesia team explained what would happen. I watched him go, heart heavy, because this had been entirely preventable. The surgery was straightforward for the team, but high stakes nonetheless. The surgeons made a small incision, carefully removed both magnets, and inspected the intestinal wall. Luckily, there was no perforation and the tissue damage was minimal. They closed everything up and the boy was moved to recovery. His parents were exhausted, a mix of relief and guilt etched into their faces. I stayed with them for a while afterward, making sure they understood the seriousness without scaring them unnecessarily. The boy woke from anesthesia in the recovery room, groggy but alert. He reached for his mother, who held him tightly, whispering reassurances. Over the next day or so, he recovered without complications. He was discharged home with instructions to avoid small magnetic toys entirely, a lesson reinforced with both the boy and his parents. It was a stark reminder of how a simple, seemingly minor ingestion can escalate when circumstances change. One magnet alone is rarely an emergency, but a second one, swallowed unknowingly, transforms a routine follow-up into a surgical crisis. The image of the two magnets attached in the intestine, and the thought of what could have happened if we had waited another hour, stayed with me long after the boy went home. The parents were incredibly thankful, and the boy went back to being a normal kid, oblivious to the danger he had narrowly escaped. But for me, it was one of those cases that you don't forget. The mix of disbelief, urgency, and relief all rolled into one. A day that started as routine ended with the kind of lesson that sticks, silent but indelible.